Today I'm going to take you through weeks 6 and 7 of my cutting phase, coached by my man Paul Revelia with Pro Physique. Hey, this is Colin the Weight. If you are new here and you want to master your metabolism and get in the best shape of your life, start today by subscribing now and click on that bell notification so you don't miss anything. Okay, so when we had last left off at the end of week 5, I had just gotten back from my trip to Iowa for my grandfather's funeral. And after getting back, I had only been able to weigh in one time where I was sitting at 179.6, which is about the same as when I had left on the trip. So as I mentioned last week, both Paul and I thought my weight was probably elevated due to the travel, eating more restaurant food, which is typically higher in sodium, the extra stress, and all that type of stuff. So he wanted me to check back in 4 days and let him know what my weight was at that time, just to see if it was elevated or if maybe I was actually stuck. Which, by the way, for the record, if it's just a typical cutting phase and you're not in actual show prep, this is a strategy that I typically recommend, and that is staying off the scale when you get back from a trip. Especially if you don't have the best relationship with the scale, you know it's going to be elevated anyway, so why let it mess with you mentally? So just get back into the swing of things and then move forward from there. Anyway, in those 4 days that I was waiting, I noticed my weight was dropping about a half a pound every single day, and by the time I checked back in with him, my weight was actually down to 177.6 pounds. So since my weight had dropped 2 pounds in 4 days, clearly my weight had been elevated and we weren't going to make any changes. And weight actually continued to drop a little bit as the rest of the week went on, and I actually averaged 177.6 for the entire week as well. So by average, that's a 2 pound drop in 1 week, which would be a little bit faster of a pace than we actually want, but technically it really wasn't that big of a drop because we know my weight was elevated the week before. So I think this really goes to show, and we just have to always remember that there are several reasons why weight can be elevated, and we can't get so freaked out about that scale when it's not doing what we want it to do. And this is actually something that I notice a lot with my own clients. They'll check in and they'll be bummed that the scale hasn't moved or maybe is even up a little bit, and then they'll start rattling off all the different reasons why weight is high. So if you know why weight is elevated, think things like extra stress, poor sleep, travel, that time of the month, feeling bloated, extra sodium intake, on and on and on. Then it makes no sense to get freaked out about the scale not doing what you want it to do. You already know why it's not accurate. So anyway, back to me, with things moving so well, there were no changes and we just kept on going with what we were doing, moving into week 7. Because remember, in a fat loss phase, if things are moving well, there's no reason to make any changes. By the way, I'll be talking about this in more detail on Monday in a video talking about how to adjust your calories when cutting, so make sure you don't miss that one. Now when it comes to week 7, kind of got off to a little bit of a tough start. Now that's not because of my diet, which I'll talk more about that in a minute, but because I was still feeling absolutely fried, even despite having gone through an entire week of deload already. This actually isn't unheard of for me, especially after a really tough training block when fatigue gets really high. Sometimes my body just needs a little extra time to recover, and 1 week just won't cut it. So I talked to Paul about it, and he agreed that another week of deload was probably going to be in my best interest, so he went ahead and followed through with that plan. And man, did that make all the difference in the world. Not only do I just feel better in general now and have much more energy, but my performance in the gym has skyrocketed compared to a week ago. I had actually just started my first week of training before we decided to go into the actual second week of deload, so I had done about 3 exercises of the original block, and it was not going well. So check this out, I had started my bench press and I did 185 pounds for 11 reps, which for me is not very good, and it just felt so heavy. But when I came back this week after the second week of deload, I did the prescribed 195 pound bench for 17 reps. So 10 more pounds for 6 more reps. I'm telling you, I was fried. So I just thought it would be worth mentioning this because so many people get caught up in feeling like they just have to gut it out all the time no matter what, and that like no pain, no gain, and you just have to push to the max all the time, and that's just not always the case. I mean, don't get me wrong, yes, absolutely, sometimes you're just gonna have to grind and you're gonna have to push through. But in other times, you need to learn to be able to back off and allow for proper recovery to be able to get the best results in the long run. While there's certainly people who don't get good results because they don't work hard enough, there's also a lot of people who don't get good results because they never know when to back off. If your body can't recover, you're not going to get anywhere. So remember, more is not always better. Better is better. And this goes for both training and nutrition. If I had not allowed for adequate recovery from that previous block, there's no way I would have made it through this one. And honestly, it probably would have blunted the fat loss as well, because I would have been so fried that I would have been so tired and just low energy that I wouldn't be able to do anything the way I normally do, and it would have showed up everywhere. But with that proper recovery, I am now ready to absolutely crush crush it. Anyway, as far as week 7 went with regards to my actual diet, everything went fine. Weight continued to go down, and I saw a loss of 1.1 pounds on average on the scale from week 6 to week 7. What's more exciting to me though was the extra detail I was really seeing in my core and especially in my obliques. And I don't know how well it necessarily always shows up in photos, but in the mirror and in real person, I'm seeing a lot more definition, and man, that is exciting. Anyway, with weight and body composition trending really well, once again, we're not going to be making any changes going into week 8, so we'll just continue to go with things, and as long as my body responds, we'll keep riding it out. But honestly, what's wild to me is that I'm seeing these kind of results and I'm this lean while eating 2,600 calories on average. But hey, I mean, that's what can happen when you A, have a good coach and follow the plan, and B, be super patient and go through specific phases of cutting and reversing and be diligent to the plan and set yourself up well for success. I'm just hoping, especially if you've been following along through the entire reverse process that I did and now this cutting process, that you're seeing that it's patience and thinking long term and not rushing the process that really does the trick. And a big part of that is the diligence to the reverse process, especially in the earlier stages. One of the biggest reasons people can't get their calories very high in a reverse is because they really struggle to adhere to their calories during the reverse. And because there's so many ups and downs with eating in the beginning, you can't get your weight to stabilize. And because they can't stabilize their weight, they can't get their calories up. And it just kind of becomes this vicious cycle of overeating, not getting your calories up, overeating, not getting your calories up, and you just kind of go back and forth and you just keep gaining weight, but you don't ever get your calories anywhere. So it's just super important in a reverse, even though your hunger hormones are talking to you and it gets really hard to not overeat, you gotta put those emotions and those feelings to the side and stick to things, because long term, that's how you're really gonna be able to eat more food. Stick to your calories in a reverse, even though you want to eat more and you're hungry, and you will be rewarded handsomely with more food down the road. Anyway, when it comes to dieting, I've had a lot of people ask about kind of metabolic damage and what will happen if you cut for too long and how long is too long to cut. So if that's you, make sure you check out this video and I'll explain how long is too long to cut, and I'll see you there.
Ooh.